Okay, here's a book review. Here's the book, The Primate Myth by Jonathan Leaf. Jonathan Leaf is a playwright. Both of his parents were psychologists, and that's what got him interested in chimpanzees and the psychology of chimpanzees. I'd be much more interested in the DNA, the genetics, and all that kind of stuff. And he does go into that, but I'm just letting you know he does talk quite a bit about the psychology. So here's some of the things that were interesting about the book. Let me get myself shrunk over here. First of all, human brain on average is 3.6 times bigger than a chimp. That's a big difference. Chimps have small brains in comparison with us, and especially they have small frontal lobes, which is where most of the personality comes from. Chimps are just violent and stupid. They're sort of an evil, vulgar, low animal. We're very much different than chimps. All of this stuff about trying to say humans are like chimps is a big lie. You have to remember, atheistic Darwinism is the creation story of neo-Darwinism, atheism. It's like the creation story of atheism that they want to use to bring back slavery, okay? So that's why, the billionaire perverts are always pushing atheism, Darwinism, because they need that to get rid of a moral foundation and to get rid of this idea that humans are created in the image of God. There's anything special about them, okay? There's giant differences between us and chimps, and it's all been a big lie to tell you that there isn't. Okay, let's see, what else? Humans have language, and that's the biggest difference. We can communicate, we can talk, we're constantly growing, learning new things, and developing. So, actually the percentage of society that actually learns and develops is a small percentage, but civilization does exist in humans, the idea of reading and learning from past generations and improving on the past. Okay, our ancestors, a couple hundred years ago, they didn't have planes, trains, automobiles, computers, or any of this stuff, so we definitely have progressed in that sense. Language is the biggest thing, because language enables us to communicate so rapidly, but language is another component of the fact that we're very social. We're always talking to each other, working with each other. We have these families. We have extended groups that we care about in sports and jobs and in social activities. Chimps don't have that. Chimps are very solitary individually, the man, and they don't pair bond with the woman. They don't kiss her. They just have sex with her, and then a bunch of men will have sex with a female chimp that's in heat, and then nobody knows who the father is. Okay, that's how they are. Chimps live up in trees, okay? Chimps have a foot for climbing trees, a prehensile foot. Humans, we live on the ground. We're biped. We walk on 2 feet. Chimps walk on all fours. They're knuckle walkers, okay? And, you can't breed a human with a chimp. You can breed a tiger, a lion with a tiger. That's called a liger. You can breed a zebra with a horse. That's called a zorse. You can breed a polar bear with a grizzly and get another type of bear called a pizzly bear. A male donkey with a female horse creates a mule, but you can't get a live offspring from a chimp and a human. Okay, we're very different. We've got 23 chromosomes. Chimp has 24 chromosomes. Okay, and it depends on how the DNA is evaluated. They used to push this lie saying our DNA was 99% the same. That's all BS as well. There's going to be a lot of similarity between all living things for pathways like glycolysis, Krebs cycle, etc. But there's major differences. And it depends on how much DNA you're testing. Just, the best known of the coding genes, all of the so-called coding genes, how much of the so-called junk DNA are you going to test? They call it junk DNA, but a lot of it's regulatory DNA. It's not junk DNA. So the current estimates are that there's now about 13.5% differences in DNA between humans and chimps, okay? That's a heck of a lot, because we have very similar DNA to any living animal, okay, to any living mammal. Also, all you have to do is use your brain and think. If you've met, two girls that are fraternal twins or two guys that are fraternal twins, they often look quite alike. They might be like 90% similar. 90%, that's 10% different, okay? And a chimp between us and them, they're giant different. No guy, even after drinking a case of beer, wants to have sex with a chimp, okay? They're disgusting. They're ugly. They look like giant spiders. They walk on all fours, okay? They got hair almost everywhere on their body. Unlike humans, we're relatively hairless in comparison with them. We got some hair, but nothing like that. We're very social, you know. And a dog is smarter than a chimp. When they try to teach words to an animal, the dogs learn the words real fast in comparison with a chimp. Chimps aren't interested in language, okay? They're not interested in communicating. They're super violent. They're constantly beating the shit out of each other. And humans are, don't get me wrong, humans can be very violent and evil and vulgar themselves, but they're nowhere near as bad as chimps. Okay, and then chimps can't be made into pets. You cannot tame a chimp. People who try to tame a chimp, it gets a little older and it does terrible things to them. It rips their arms off, rips their faces off. The chimps are brutally violent. There is no such thing as a tame chimp. Okay, and chimps are much stronger. They're 3 times stronger than a human, triple our strength. Okay, they've got more quick strength, you know, fast twitch fibers. Humans we got better endurance than they have. We could run a longer distance, but chimps got better power to just beat the shit out of you real fast. Okay, and cannibalism is super common in chimps, whereas it's relatively uncommon in humans. But don't get me wrong, I know it was common in the Aztecs. It was common for a while in Africa. Okay, and I got to end this video now. I hope you found this helpful.